Once upon a time, you could open any map from the 1500s through to the 1800s and find a massive territory labeled Tartaria, or Grand Tartary. This was no little kingdom. We're talking about an empire that stretched from Eastern Europe across Asia. But suddenly Grand Tartary disappeared without a trace. What happened to the once magnificent civilization? Did they disappear naturally, or is there more to the sudden vanishing? The 1915 Panama Pacific International Exposition in San Francisco presents an even more impossible timeline. Just 9 years after the devastating 1906 earthquake had reduced much of the city to rubble, San Francisco allegedly constructed an elaborate fairground. This fairground featured the magnificent Palace of Fine Arts and dozens of other engineering wonders. The official story tells us that these structures were built specifically for the exposition using temporary materials. But examine the photographs closely. Does this look like temporary architecture to you? It does not. But this is where they forgot to clear their tracks. Despite the scale and supposed temporary nature of these structures, very few detailed construction photographs exist. We have plenty of images of the finished buildings and their demolition, but remarkably little documentation of the actual construction process. Why is this so? If not because there wasn't any construction to document. If that made you stop in your tracks, this next Tartarian excellence will amaze you. Do you know star forts? They are unique geometric structures with precise angular shapes that appear in many places in the world. Europe, North America, and Asia, you name it. Tartaria researchers point to the mysterious star forts found across the globe. They suggest that the origin is Grand Tartary. Don't take a deep breath yet. While counter-historians classify them as military fortifications designed to withstand cannon fire, the other side says otherwise. One look at their geometric precision, and you'll notice that it doesn't fit the military explanation. The structures of the star forts follow mathematical principles that seem more suited to energy manipulation than defense. The angles, the proportions, the positioning. Everything about star forts screams they were designed according to principles of resonance and electromagnetic field manipulation. They weren't built to keep armies out. They were built to channel and focus energy. To make matters worse, there's the acoustic evidence. Step inside any great cathedral or government building from this era, and you'll immediately notice the incredible acoustic properties. Your voice carries in ways that seem almost supernatural. You'll hear that the sounds resonate and amplify with such amazing accuracy. Tartaria theorists argue that these weren't designed for better church sermons or political speeches. They were built as massive resonance chambers, spaces designed to amplify sound frequencies for technological purposes. Here is where it makes sense. Recent research shows that certain frequencies can influence matter at the molecular level. Sound waves can levitate objects, break down materials, and even alter the properties of water and other substances. What if the Tartarians had mastered this technology centuries before we even understood the principles involved? The implications are staggering. Imagine a civilization that could power entire cities without burning fossil fuels, move massive stone blocks using sound frequencies, and even transmit energy and information across vast distances without any physical infrastructure. Feels like a virtual reality game, right? This explains how the Tartarians could construct such massive buildings so quickly and with such accuracy. It also explains the undeniable consistency of building styles across different continents, and it might explain why this civilization had to be erased from history. Because if free energy technology existed, if it was really possible to power the world without oil, coal, or nuclear fuel, that knowledge would threaten the entire foundation of the modern economic system. And no government would have liked that idea. And if the Tartarians possessed such advanced technology, what happened to it? And why don't we see any evidence of these energy systems in operation today? the answer might be more disturbing than the theory itself. But before we go into that, here's where the Tartarian mystery takes its most incredible turn. If this advanced civilization existed and built these massive structures using free energy technology, there's a burning question we need to ask. What did the Tartarians themselves look like? The answer is both simple and shocking. They were giants. Walk through any grand building constructed during the Tartarian era, and you'll immediately notice something odd about the proportions. Doorways that tower 12, 15, and even 20 feet high. Staircases with steps so large that normal-sized people have to stretch to climb them comfortably. Ceilings that are 3 times higher than what we see today. Who would use such towering designs if not giants? Mainstream historians try to explain this as grandeur for grandeur's sake. This is the idea that architects simply wanted to create impressive spaces that would awe visitors. But Tartaria theorists propose a different explanation. These buildings weren't designed to impress normal-sized humans. They were designed for inhabitants who were significantly taller. Consider the furniture depicted in photographs from the late 1800s. Chairs with seats positioned unusually high off the ground. Tables that seem oversized even for their grand surroundings. Beds that appear massive even by the standards of luxury accommodations. There is more evidence pointing to a gigantic race. The historical accounts speak for themselves. During the 1800s and early 1900s, newspapers across America regularly reported discoveries of giant skeletons. Not just 1 or 2 isolated incidents, but dozens of documented findings. The Smithsonian Institution's records from this period mention numerous acquisitions of unusually large human remains, found during construction projects, mining operations, and archaeological projects. Skeletons measuring 7, 8, and even 9 feet in height, with bone structure that suggested they belonged to a distinct race of humans. But here's where it gets suspicious. If you try to find any of these giant skeletons in museum collections today, you would be wasting your time. They've all vanished. According to Tartaria theorists, the Smithsonian and other institutions systematically removed these remains from public view, either destroying them or storing them in private collections where researchers can't access them. The big question is, why? We lack the answer too. The thing is, the cover-up theory extends beyond just hiding bones. Some researchers claim that historical photographs from the late 1800s were deliberately edited to make people appear normal-sized to match the buildings around them. It gets even more interesting. Cultural memory springs up piece of evidence. Nearly every ancient civilization has legends of giants, beings who were larger and more powerful than ordinary humans. Greek mythology speaks of titans. The Bible mentions Nephilim. Norse legends describe enormous warriors. Native American tribes across the continent have stories of giant races that once inhabited their lands. What if these weren't just myths and legends? What if they were cultural memories of actual encounters with a race of giant humans, the Tartarians themselves? This would explain the large scale of Tartarian architecture. It would explain why these buildings seem designed for inhabitants much larger than ourselves. And it would provide yet another reason why evidence of this civilization had to be systematically erased from history. Acknowledging the existence of a race of giants would fundamentally challenge our understanding of human evolution and development. It would raise uncomfortable questions about what happened to these beings and why modern humans inherited their world. Everything you know about how you came to be would suddenly look false. But soon enough, another query rose to the surface. If the Tartarians were truly giants with advanced technology, how did they disappear so completely? And who had the power to erase all evidence of their existence from the historical record? The answer leads us to the darkest aspect of the Tartarian conspiracy: their disappearance. What we're talking about isn't just the disappearance of one civilization. According to Tartaria theorists, we're looking at evidence of the most massive historical cover-up in human history. Most likely a deliberate, coordinated effort to rewrite our entire understanding of the past. They call it the Great Reset. This is not the recent economic theory, but a much older and more sinister process of erasing inconvenient truths from the historical record. Consider the timing of major catastrophic events in the 1800s and early 1900s. The Great Chicago Fire of 1871, the San Francisco earthquake of 1906, World War I from 1914 to 1918, the Spanish flu pandemic, World War II. Mainstream historians see these as unrelated tragedies, natural disasters, conflicts, and diseases that shape the modern world. But Tartaria theorists propose something far more disturbing. These weren't random events. They were coordinated attacks designed to destroy evidence of the Tartarian civilization. Wait, what? Yes. They suggest that the Great Chicago Fire is particularly suspicious. Official records claim it started when Mrs. O'Leary's cow kicked over a lantern in her barn. But examine the destruction pattern, and you'll notice something odd. The fire specifically targeted the most elaborate and architecturally significant buildings in the city, while leaving simpler structures largely untouched. If this is true, then the cover-up may be more extensive than even Tartaria theorists realize. Tartaria might not be the only advanced civilization that's been erased from our history. However, the most compelling evidence comes from historical photography. Examine photographs of major cities taken in the late 1800s, and you'll notice something deeply unsettling. The streets are empty. We're not talking about light foot traffic or quiet neighborhoods. Look at the major metropolitan areas, New York, London, Paris, Berlin, that appear virtually abandoned. Wide boulevards stretch for blocks without a single person visible. Grand public squares sit completely vacant. Entire city centers look like elaborate movie sets waiting for actors to arrive. This is suspicious. The conventional explanation for this involves photographic technology. Early cameras required long exposure times, and moving people simply didn't register in the final image. But this explanation starts to break down when you consider the scale of what we're seeing. These aren't just streets with fewer people than expected. These are photographs of massive urban centers that appear to have been completely abandoned. Where are the carriages? Where are the street vendors? Where are the basic signs of urban life that you'd expect in any functioning city? The empty streets in historical photographs might indeed be explained by long exposure times, combined with the fact that 19th century urban centers were genuinely less crowded than modern cities. But acknowledging these conventional explanations doesn't mean we should dismiss every aspect of the Tartarian mystery.